Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Wisper University. We have a super fun guest speaker with us today. So many of us find that climbing the career ladder or succeeding in your own business means speaking in front of groups, which is a big credibility builder if you can do it well. But the fear of public speaking is an activity that a lot of us dread. It consistently ranks as one of the most common fears that people have and holds many of us back from reaching our potential. Our guest today has written a book called No Sweat Public Speaking and the No Sweat Elevator Speech. And they've been purchased internationally. They have great reviews on Amazon. I'm excited to check them out. He's been interviewed by local, national, international media even. So if you have this fear of public speaking, or you just want to be a better presenter, you just want to get more comfortable, then he has a message for you. So I did a little research on him and discovered that he used to be in the coffee service business for many years, and he used to sell coffee. So I asked him to perk up our meeting and to not let it become a grind. I've been told that he espressos himself well and would never be considered a drip. I don't want to spill the beans on this talk, but I'm curious, as I'm sure you are, to hear what he has brewed up for us today. So without further ado, we are going to get into No Sweat Public Speaking and No Sweat Elevator Speeches with Fred Miller.
Thanks a latte. Great introduction. Thank you very much, Susie. I'm glad to be here. This is really embarrassing. I know I should have been somewhere else. Actually, and we had talked about that before the show. This is terribly distracting. Whoops, that gets worse when I do something with the lights. But if you look at people on TV, sometimes the big deal is you're looking at their backgrounds. I've seen people, they're authors or they've got something they're selling and it's all over the place or something like this. And the big thing is we cannot multitask. And if the audience is looking at this crap, they're not watching and listening to you.
Right.
You can only do one thing at a time. And the best example I can give of that, if you watch cable news and there's a little ticker tape comes around across the bottom, if you're reading that ticker tape, you have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And to prove that, when the commercial comes on, the ticker tape is gone. Advertisers would never pay for that. I have no idea why they do it. So this is one big thing about Zoom and all the other platforms for these virtual meetings that a lot of people don't get. The second thing is their face. A couple of things about it. First of all, they're not looking at the camera. I've looked here, I look like I'm from Mars, or I've looked up more nostrils than an ear, nose, and throat doctor. I mean, people have no idea. And lighting. People will be doing this. I'm getting problems. People will be doing this in the dark, and it's terrible. And the third thing is sound. And this is really important. People will watch bad video. They won't listen to bad audio. And someone who has an older computer with a little bitty microphone, they're sitting back from it, and it sounds like they're in a tunnel. And I've seen people on national news who should know better. So I always suggest, get a little microphone. I like this little lavalier. Let me get a different background. This thing is really killing me here. Whoops. Oh no, that's a mess too. I'd love to be here,
Oh, that's nice.
They could probably use me here, I can tell you. Hopefully, maybe there's not what's the speech? He's not going to give that speech that he lost. This is bad too. People sit right in front of a window. Wait, I got to show you another one. Where is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen people like this. It looks like helicopters landing on them, and this is it. Whoa.
Oh,
very nice. That is absolutely the worst. You've seen those. Wait, one more and then we'll get, say I'm on the other side.
It's a little relaxing.
I don't see your name here, Susie. You're young. You have time to, whatever it was you did, I'm not gonna. Okay, let's get something that makes sense. Okay, there. The best background is the one you don't notice. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I like that. What would you say about mine? What I've
it's good and bad. It's got some good points too. I was trying to figure out what was hanging on the wall behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
just one back there.
Let me just say it could be worse.
I'll take that. I'll take could be worse.
This is probably the best. Whoops. Except when I go like that. That's one of the problems working with a green screen. And it was funny when COVID first broke out, you couldn't get a green screen, you couldn't get a microphone, you couldn't get a camera, a webcam, you couldn't get a ring light. But then you got to learn how to use it. I'm still obviously experimenting. You know, you have to have the right lighting. I got a ton of light on this thing, the right distance. It's always a work in progress. But if you've got a message, people are not going to get it if they're distracted by a background, by not seeing you, by looking up your nose, and bad sound. So that's really important. So I thought, you know, we talked earlier about getting that out of the way, but I think it is important.
Definitely. So looked at backgrounds a little bit. What do you think about the effects? Have you played with those at all? We've got some funny ones, but little, you know,
Wait, which effect?
sunglasses on. That's a fun one. Oh, maybe I can't get to them.
Oh, you got some from wait, I got some effect here. This one looks like I'm in prison.
Oh,
Not
that's
that
a
I
good
know,
one.
not that I know what prison looks like. And there's space one. Oh, here's what some people do. So, you know, here's my books, and they'd be standing there trying to sell their books. That's terribly distracting. This is a good background here because it's blurred. And if you watch the news shows, the pros will have a blurred background behind them so it doesn't distract you. Otherwise, you are trying to look at what's going on here. So I think, you know, something like this, that's not bad. Actually, where was that? That one I had, you know, that's not, yeah, that doesn't contrast with me as much. Where was, oh yeah, here, I like this one. It's just plain and simple.
Yeah.
And that's all you really want to look at is that person. And again,
Right.
we cannot multitask. And that has to do with presentations and a lot of stuff that, you know, we talk about. You want the audience to look at you. In fact, one suggestion is, while I'm thinking about it, is if you have a bunch of people, the best thing is to blank out all of their videos and turn off all their microphones. Because otherwise, I'm going, well, who's that? Well, they don't look like their picture on LinkedIn. And who came in there? And what were they drinking? And who is that? It doesn't look like that name. It's somebody else. Yeah. You've seen it, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's terribly distracting. Okay. I digress.
I was going to ask how you felt about mute etiquette. Do you think we should be muted all the time or only mute when
It
we're not
depends. I
talking?
mean, people have said a lot of things they shouldn't say if they're not muted. And there was one broadcaster, I won't go into what he did, but he was on one of the big national channels and he was doing something inappropriate and he lost his job.
Yikes. Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you don't mute it, at least keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. I love the ones with the Zoom classrooms with all the little kids and they're all talking and the teacher's trying to mute everybody.
Hey, you can't
imagine.
do that. You can't multitask. It's really tough. And this had to do with, you know, if we're going to talk about presentations, when you're using slides, you want to make that screen go blank periodically. Because if I'm looking at the screen, I'm not looking at you. And in terms of a presentation, there's two components. There's content and delivery. Content is your message. Delivery is presenting that message. Delivery surpasses content. You could be the world's leading authority on a subject, but if you don't present that in a manner that educates, entertains, and explains, they'll never get it. You know, on the delivery side, there's verbal communication. That's your voice and how you use it. And there's nonverbal, gestures, facial expressions. Nonverbal surpasses verbal. People believe what they see. And if they're looking at the screen, they're not looking at you. That's why you want to make that screen go blank. How many presentations have you been to? The presenter didn't have to be there. They could have just had it on a QuickTime loop, right? Yeah.
We're all pretty familiar with Zoom at this point and the virtual meetings, but I think the finesse of it is a little challenging still. I think that takes some getting used to.
Oh yeah, it's really challenging, and probably the rules are going to change. I know one thing: before you get on a Zoom meeting, always go and update the software. Even if you just updated it the day before, they may have changed it, and it's just those little things that could throw it off and make it tough. But you got to have the latest, and that's kind of cool. Kind of a microphone.
Yeah.
A little subtle branding there.
Right, just a little.
But you're right. I mean, this is the way people are communicating. It's going to be this way for a long time. People are not going back to their office. And if you're going to use this, you got to learn how to use it correctly.
Yeah. So besides backgrounds and distracting effects, what else is important for a Zoom
Well,
presentation?
again, sound. You want to have good sound. You want to make sure you know what you're going to say. I found one thing, it's really tough if I'm going to look at notes and then to look up, that doesn't look as good. I've seen people on national television, they got their camera, everything set up, and they keep looking down at notes. And it'd be hard to have a teleprompter. So you have to know what you're going to talk about, but that gets to the point, it should be conversational anyway. You don't want to read. A presentation, you don't want to read. You want to, and then if you're going to have slides, and slides are good if they're used correctly. And one thing about slides is don't use bullet points, or use very few. Nobody comes to read your presentation. Basically, bullet points kill the bullet points. You know, use high quality images, and your voice is the text.
Right. Okay. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just reading, and there's no sense to that. You also have to break it up, because we have the attention span of a gnat. I mean, you've got to keep people's attention. I coach people for TED Talks. Are you familiar, Susie, with TED Talks?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, they're 18 minutes or less. We just don't have a very long, we don't have a very long attention span.
Yeah.
So you want to break it up. You want to have some video. You want to have some humor. You want to tell stories. You want to involve other people. But just to go into some of these meetings and maybe it's going to be an hour or so or longer, that's really tough. And you're not going to have people get much out of it. You've got to keep their attention full time.
Agreed. As someone who sat through a lot of presentations.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I think we've covered our Zoom basics here, unless you have anything else that you want to throw in there.
No, that's good. This, keeps a lot of practice, keep up the latest. Obviously some of my backgrounds work better than others, but it is good. I'm not saying everybody should invest in a green screen, but look what you have behind you and maybe make some changes, because if they're looking at that background, trying to figure out who's in that picture, what's that award for, why is that window open, then they're not paying attention to you. And we cannot multitask. I know women think they can, but it's a myth. It's a myth.
You also do elevator pitches.
Elevators. Well, elevator speeches. There's a little bit of a difference, at least the way I see it, between elevator speech and elevator pitch. A pitch, I think, is if you're going to pitch your product or service. An elevator speech is, well, it answers that question. We've all gone to those networking events where somebody says, before we get started, let's go around the room. When it's your turn, tell us who you are, what you do, give us your elevator speech. And most people struggle with that. And it's bad. So I found that there's a niche for having people know what their elevator speech is. If you get on one of these big Zoom meetings, they want to know, but you got to say it very succinctly. So there's a couple of guidelines for an elevator speech. First, it has to be really quick, maybe 30 seconds or less. It has to be clear, concise, and consistent. A great test of an elevator speech is that anyone else hearing it can tell everyone else exactly what you do. That's a great test for it. Now we'll talk about the goals of an elevator speech. The ultimate goal is a conversation. And it's a conversation with somebody who really wants to know about your product or service. What does it cost? Are there any guarantees? How long does it last? How do you deliver it? But there's some immediate goals. An immediate goal is that you want people to know exactly what you do, and they make a couple of decisions. First decision might be, I need that product or service. I need it now. As soon as he's finished, I'm going to give my card and we're going to set up an appointment. Right. Next one might be, I know he does. I don't need that. But if I ever do, I'd be comfortable calling that person. And the third thing, you want them to know so well what you do so they can refer you. So their radar is up. So in my case, if somebody says to you, hey, Susie, I got a big presentation coming up. It's really, really important. Do you know anybody? You'll go, I know Fred. And he'll refer me.
Right.
Now, that's for doing it in front of groups. When you do it one-on-one, there's an added goal of disqualifying. Everyone's not a prospect for everything you sell and do. I'm sure everyone you talk to, they're not a prospect. and
Yeah.
you want to eliminate them as soon as possible. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I went to a networking event. It was a Chamber of Commerce,
Mhm.
and the meeting was going to start noon, and the instructions were arrive early and network. And it was one-on-one. And I remember one young lady had a great elevator speech. She was selling replacement windows for older homes. I
Okay.
was very familiar with the manufacturer, national manufacturer. The company she worked for had been in business for many years, good reputation, but she's given this elevator speech to each and every individual she met. And there were people living in apartments, people in new homes who didn't need windows replaced. And then, quite frankly, these were very high end windows. They were expensive and they're not in everyone's budget. And she was wasting their time and her time. So, one of the things that you want to do is to disqualify people.
Okay.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because you don't want to waste their time or yours, especially when it's one on one and your time is limited. So, let me go back to how I got involved in this elevator speech because it's all about stories.
Yeah.
I was in a networking group called E for E, Experts for Entrepreneurs. And the leader, Bill, came to me one day. He said, "You know, Fred, you're our presentation expert. How about a presentation to the group next month on how to develop, practice, and deliver a great elevator speech?" And I thought, geez, mine's terrible. I've struggled with it forever. Oh my gosh. But I knew I had to do it. People were asking me, and I had to work on mine. But I had no idea where I was going to get started. The next day, I was in my sales class, and we had a new student. And as always happened, the instructor said, "We got a newbie today. Before we get started, let's go around the room, tell them who you are, what you do, give them your elevator speech." Well, mine was pretty bad, and most of them were. But Roy was sitting next to me, and Roy had a phrase that was so good, everyone wrote it down. And I'll tell you what that phrase is in a little bit. But that's what got me fired up to get involved with this elevator speech book. So when I started writing this and working on it, I built some templates. I built them on two words: elevator, build it by the floor. Everybody doesn't want to go to the top floor with you. You don't want to take everyone there. And
Right.
speech. An elevator speech is a mini presentation. And if you've ever read my books, seen me speak, read my blog, listened to my podcast, my mantra is speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. And that's what an elevator speech is. So I built that elevator speech based on those two things with a lot of flexibility, and works pretty well. Should I give you my elevator? Should I tell you what I do, Susie?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay. And now I'll ask you what you do. Okay.
All right.
All right. So this would be the ultimate elevator speech of a large group. We have some time. So I'll start off my name. I say, I'm Fred Miller. I'm a speaker, coach, and an author. The title of my first book is No Sweat Public Speaking. Businesses, individuals, and organizations hire me because they want to improve their networking, public speaking, and presentation skills. They do that because they know speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. They also know we perceive really good speakers as experts. We like to work with experts. I show them how to develop, practice, and deliver a knock your socks off presentation with no sweat. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I like it.
And it's got some flexibility. You could start on one floor and go down. You can go up. You can skip floors. For instance, if time is a restraint, I might say, well, who believes speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities? You put your hand up, more hands go up, except the lights come on. And I say, well, I speak, coach, and write about networking, public speaking, and presentation skills. And you want to be very precise in what you do. You want to have, as I said before, you want somebody hearing it to be able to repeat what you do to other people. So it's got to be the bullseye of the bullseye of the target. And I'll give you an example of that. I know a lawyer, he was giving his elevator speech and he said, I'm an attorney. I do contracts, buy-sell agreements, partnership agreements, leases, rentals. I do contracts. And during the Q&A, somebody say, well, I have a friend who got a speeding ticket. No, I don't do that. I do contracts. And somebody else would say, I know somebody who might be getting divorced. Don't do that. I do contracts. Now, he may do those things, but only when you're already dealing with somebody and you have their trust. But otherwise, if you say you do too many things, people are going to think, well, gosh, I guess Susie could rotate my tires and change my oil and wash my windows.
Right.
Got to be very, very precise.
Hmm.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Because too many people just, well, I'll do this. Yeah, I could do that. Sure. My own example, somebody say, well, do you coach for interviews? I could, but I know people who do a really good job of it, and I rather refer them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really important, I think, to know exactly what you do and get started that way.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I've done elevator speeches, but it's been a while, so.
Well, here's another one. And I like this one. I call this the express elevator speech. So you asked me what I do. We meet at this networking event. And I say, Susie, thanks for asking. I'm going to answer your question by asking you one. Have you ever been to an event and you're sitting there and watching and listening to the speaker and you're thinking to yourself, boy, that guy's good. I mean, he is really good. He's articulate, authentic, very entertaining. Obviously, he's got a passion for what he's doing. And I'm getting a lot out of this presentation. Man, I wish I could do that. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy they hire to develop, practice, and deliver presentations like that. Now, hopefully at that point you say, well, here, let's exchange cards. I got to talk to you. If you don't, I'm going to go for no. And I'll say, Susie, I got to tell you, everyone who hires me knows speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. You probably don't know anyone who wants to improve their public speaking, do you? And then, that's kind of a prospecting question. Let me make this point, though. The phrase that my friend used in the sales class was hire me. Okay. Because most people say, I work with companies. I help people, right? That's what we all said. That's what I used to say.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty wishy-washy. When you say hire me, what you're saying is, hey, I'm really good at this. And I'm good at this. I'm proud of it. And you know what? There's some jack connected to it. And if that eliminates somebody, that's great. Everybody's not a prospect. Now, if you're not comfortable saying hire me, don't use that phrase. There's other phrases. Write me checks, put me on their payroll. I was going to say hire me again. Here's one I really like. And I got this from a real estate agent. She said, people buying and selling homes choose me as their realtor. And I love that choose. And if you think about it, if you fly Southwest Airlines, when they land, that pilot always says, we know you have choices when you fly. Thank you for choosing Southwest. I love that phrase. But if you're not comfortable with hiring me, you don't want to say it because that'll come across in your delivery. I know I had a lady once say, ooh, you got a little attitude with that. Hire me, don't you, Fred? I said, what do you want to hire? You want to work with a wimp? Somebody doesn't like what they're doing or proud of it? But again, don't use that phrase if you're not comfortable. I like choose me, write me checks, have me do projects, whatever you're comfortable with, but work with and help people. It sounds like if you're independently wealthy, God bless you, do it all. But get it up front that this is what people pay me to do. Yeah, and then say pay me a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's better to eliminate them up front. And it becomes a pricing. You don't want to be the Walmart of your industry.
I'm trying to think of what I would say for mine. Might be a short one.
That's all right. Oh, short's good. Well, you also want to have, to that point, you want to have a Twitter type. Sometimes the big groups, like, real quickly, X number of words or less. I speak, coach, and write about networking, public speaking, and presentation skills. And you want to stir up enough interest that they know what you do and they want to have a conversation. And they want to refer you. And if you can have a niche the better that niche. I love that example of the contract attorney. I mean, he's very, very specific. You know, you got that bullseye, and that line. If it's on the line, I don't do that.
Right.
I don't do that. All right. So what do you do?
We start off the right way here. People hire me to
Oh, I love
coordinate
that.
their social media, increase their online presence, and coordinate their internal communications.
No,
Sounds
so
like
do that again. I like it. There are three things there, right? I love to hire me, and then you said, go ahead. I don't want to take words out of your mouth or put them in.
let's see,
Social
coordinate.
media. You said you had three things, though. I think.
Yeah, coordinate social media. I would throw online presence in there and internal communications.
That's dynamite. And here's the thing: three is magic, and let me explain that.
Okay.
We use one for emphasis.
Mhm.
Zoom is a great tool. I mean, it's got its challenge, but it's a great tool. Two for comparison, and the examples might be up, down, fast, slow, black, white. Three for completeness.
Okay.
And I'll give you some examples in a moment. And four or more for a list, shopping list or a to-do list.
Mhm.
We can't remember more than three or four things. So three it's magical. So here's some examples. I speak, coach, and write about networking, public speaking, and presentation skills. If you want the audience to get it, you need to educate, entertain, and explain. That elevator speech should be clear, concise, and consistent. And we do allow that intuitively. I'm really proud of what you did. But now that you know it, if you have four things, you're going to drop it down. And if you have three or more, or four or more, or excuse me, less than three, you're going to goose it up. But three is perfect. Just one of those little magical things that makes a big difference. And it's little bitty things that make that big difference.
Yeah. All
That
right.
was good. Yeah. You have to write that down, put it on your business card.
I will. I like that. So it's a good like a LinkedIn bio.
Yes. Yeah. Because you take a look what people write down. I mean, just they can't do all those things. Or they only put down a couple things and they got something else that should be right in there. And they have to be somewhat related too. So another thing I do is mind mapping. Mind mapping is a nonlinear visual brainstorming tool. But if I say I speak, coach, and write and do mind mapping, you're going, whoa, what's that? You know, I mean, people have lots of different skills, but you want to, at least when you start working with somebody, have some relevancy to everything. Because you can always branch out, but you know, they got to know what you do.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
We are coming to the end of our time here, I believe. So do you have any last elevator speech tips for us?
Well, get my book.
Of course.
No Sweat Elevator Speech. I also got a lot of stuff on my website, No Sweat Public Speaking. Contact me, Fred, at No Sweat Public Speaking. I've got templates that I'll send them to you, because an elevator speech, again, is a mini speaking opportunity. And this is really important. Speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. This is a speaking opportunity for me. And the reason to take those speaking opportunities, no selling, just present that you are an expert on your topic. So I know that if I ever want to get some help with social media, I got Susie as an expert up there. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I love it.
I appreciate you having me. It was great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll have you back. We'll do some more.
Oh, I like that. I like that. All right, Susie, be safe.
All right. You too. Thanks so much. Thanks again, Fred. I really appreciate you meeting with me today. Don't forget to follow us here on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel, just Wisper University, where all of our videos go. So if you'd like to catch up, you can check us there. I will include the link to our website as well as Fred's website down below if you're interested in more about him. And be sure to come back next time and see us. Bye-bye.